G'day. Today I want to share a real life and slightly embarrassing lesson about why it's important to prioritize your systems and processes. Over the years, I've probably done in excess of 1,000 trips to and from airports. And in that time, I've developed a fairly robust process to make sure I get stuff right, that I don't miss flights, that I don't forget things, that kind of stuff. And that system has held me in pretty good stead until it didn't. And that didn't was just a couple of days ago on a day trip to Singapore. Because you see, one of the most important components of my process is my go bag. You would have seen it in the spy movies where the agent has got that bag full of, passports and different currencies and his Walter PPK so that he can make an emergency departure whenever his cover is blown. Or like the couple that's expecting their first child, they've got their hospital bag, so they've got everything in it that they need when they need to make that emergency dash to the hospital. Well, my go bag's got all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff in it. You'd probably laugh if I told you what was in it. I've got things like green tea bags, I've got salt and pepper sachets, roll-on deodorants, cables and adapters, all sorts of stuff. Stuff that invariably is not really that important, but that I've missed at some point or another over my journeys, and I just want to make sure I've got it with me. Arguably the most important component of that go bag, of course, is my passport, which sits in that folder on the outside, in that pocket, on the outside. And my passport basically lives there. When I'm traveling, when I'm at home, it lives in my go bag. The only problem was, on this day trip to Singapore, my go bag was a no-go. I didn't need it because I only had, I had a meeting, I had a site inspection, and I was back home in a few hours. And so, of course, I get to the airport, no passport. Gonna miss my flight, have to go back, get my passport, reschedule the flight. It was a bit of a catastrophe there for a couple of hours. But of course, over the next couple of hours, while I'm going to and from the airports, I start thinking about why my system failed me. Obviously, the fact is I didn't have my go bag, so it all fell apart. But I realized I had a backup system which has always worked up until now. And that backup system was that I prep everything the night before, especially when I've got an early flight, which of course I did this time. But that process wasn't done this time. I didn't actually check my stuff the night before because I figured doesn't matter. Whatever's in the go bag, if I don't have it, doesn't matter. I'm just there for a few hours. But of course, it in fact was the most important part of this whole process that I had in place. And so I think the lesson is that when we look at our systems and processes, there's probably one or two of them that are real priorities. Some we think are priorities, but some aren't. Some form a backup to the other processes. And I think when you look at it from a business perspective, you've probably got a number of systems and processes and frankly habits and routines that are in place that work really, really well until they don't. And so I think the lesson here from a business perspective is to look at your business and identify those systems and processes which are the priorities, which are the absolutely non-negotiables that must be done. And if they don't do, they will lead to a critical failure. Because that's what happened this time. I had a system and process which was the go bag. I prioritized the go bag over the night before preparation. Had I prioritized the night before prep, then I would have captured the fact that I didn't have my passport in my go bag. So there is a little lesson for you, a life lesson for me. It's given my wife something to dine out on, a story to dine out on for a hell of a long time, because every single time we go to the airport, of course, I'm reminding her, don't forget your passport, don't forget your passport, because I'm worried that I travel more than she does and she's going to forget her passport. Of course, she's never forgotten a passport. Now I have for the first time, so I'm going to hear about that for a hell of a long time. Alrighty, little lesson from you at my expense. That is it for today. I do thank you for tuning in, and I will be back again tomorrow. See ya. That was my